Welcome to Mastering the Next, a cutting-edge podcast that explores the future of graduate, online, and non-traditional education through the lens of AI and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Ray Lutsky, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Element 451. Join me for discussions with some of the thought leaders shaping the future of graduate enrollment management through technology. Mastering the Next is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that helps institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Hispanic Serving Institutions are playing an increasingly vital role in shaping the future of American higher education, enrolling millions of students across the country. Today, we're joined by Dr. Mike Flores, Chancellor of the Alamo Colleges District and past chair of the governing board of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, HACU. We'll explore HACU's evolving mission, the unique strengths of Hispanic Serving Institutions, and what it will take to ensure these institutions can meet the needs of an increasingly diverse student population. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Flores.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Very excited to have you here. I know you just completed your term as chair of the board of HACU. How do you see HACU's role evolving to support institutions, especially as the Hispanic student population continues to grow nationwide?
Well, I think what's, particularly critical for institutions of higher education is to look at the communities that they serve. HACU in particular, as an association of higher ed institutions, has been at the forefront of articulating and advocating for those institutions. And so there's over 600 Hispanic serving institutions. That's a federal designation, right, given by the U.S. Department of Education, meaning that your institution has over 25% of its student population are Hispanic or Latino. And then there's also some other indicators, but that's a prime one. And in particular, that the institutions are looking at serving the interests of Hispanic students. But I think what's also unique about HSIs is it's institution-based and it's serving all students. So HSIs also can be some of the most diverse institutions of higher education within the United States, serving African American or Asian or Anglo or other students. And so I really appreciate the role that HSIs serve, since all 5 of our colleges within the district are Hispanic serving institutions. And the other part is just in being able to advocate for the interests of higher education as well.
And that's amazing to hear about that growth. And I do want to get back to the specific characteristics of HSIs, but backing up a little, HACU is a powerful convening organization. And the meetings I've been and when I've talked with folks, the member schools are so proud to be a part of the association. It's such a mark of pride. How does HACU sustain and grow this enthusiasm for schools' desire to serve more Hispanic students? It seems to be a growing trend, but what is the special sauce, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I would say first, as a membership-based organization, right? So each institution does pay a membership fee. But what is most interesting is just the continuum of services that are offered by HACU to its members or its partners, right? I think it's more of a partnership between the students, the faculty, and staff at that particular HSI in partnership with HACU as an association. It runs the full gamut, right? So we know that, for instance, the House and the Senate in Washington, D.C., right? Inauguration of a new president and executive branch. So HACU plays a critical role in advocating for the interests of Hispanic serving institutions, and not only those that are members, but all HSIs in particular, being able to procure secure federal grants that are only for HSIs that could go from the U.S. Department of Education to actually USDA or the United States Department of Agriculture. So that's one. So that's on a kind of on a macro level, looking at advocacy in Washington, D.C. They've also taken a role in advocating in particular states. So HACU has opened an office in Sacramento in California, has opened an office in Illinois, right, to be able to have a presence in Springfield, which is the state capital, to advocate for the interests of HSIs in California or perhaps in Illinois or the Midwest. So advocacy is an important part of the HACU agenda. The other is when you look at the institution itself, being able to provide resources and support to faculty and staff. That could be leadership development programs that HACU provides, where faculty and staff that are interested in moving up through their organization or professional advancement. They have different leadership development programs, both at, say, at the dean or VP level, right? Those that are interested in becoming provosts or presidents or chancellors, or perhaps a faculty or mid-level emerging professionals that are interested in being department chairs or directors. So if you look at it kind of at a faculty staff lens, that's important. The other is just providing programs and support services to students, which is, I think, another critical and the most important audience, right? Being able to provide student organizations that are interested also in leadership development activities. So that's important. That could be at the campus. There's also regional or statewide gatherings of leadership development in big states, Florida, Texas, California, Illinois, or New York. Also being able to provide internship opportunities or scholarship opportunities. You can go to the HACU site, right, as an undergraduate or graduate student to look at scholarship opportunities that are available in partnership with private sector or public sector partners that HACU is working with. And then one of the most interesting things that I think they provide is what's called HNIP, or the HACU National Internship Program. Being able to place students throughout the academic year, fall or spring or summer, in Washington, D.C. with any of the cabinet level agencies, right? So that could be energy or agriculture. It could be the CIA or the FBI. So HACU they're always mindful of how can we diversify things? How can we provide an opportunity for students who attend HSIs or students who are Hispanic or Latino to be able to go to the next level and create kind of that structure of opportunity. So the HNIP program, I think, is particularly critical, and being able to diversify. Initially, it was the federal workforce, right, to provide a diverse talent bench in federal agencies in DC or in regional areas. Now they've also pursued private sector opportunities, right? So perhaps it's with energy companies, or it's with Fortune 100 firms, those types of things. So I think if you go back and look at what does HACU provide, it essentially provides critical support and advancement opportunities for distinct stakeholder groups, students, which I just mentioned, faculty and staff, as well as institution-wide priorities through their role as advocates.
You referred to the winds of change in government that are well underway, and working within the context of government agencies and influencing them. What concerns or opportunities do you see coming down the pike with these changes? Because clearly there's a change in tone of the administration, and potentially some unforeseen changes that sort of are going to be a surprise to everyone, I guess. But what do you use your crystal ball, and what challenges and opportunities do you see?
I think one of the things that we want to do is ensure that we have, in many ways, a agenda, right, as either members of HACU or just as institutions of higher education that are bipartisan. And so I think that's particularly important for us within higher education, because when a student enrolls in a college or university, right, we ask them very critical information like, what courses did you take? What are you interested in pursuing? We don't ask them their partisan affiliation, right, or if they voted most recently. So I would say that if it's an administration, perhaps the outgoing administration, right, President Biden's administration, or the return of the Trump administration and Republican administration, we want to ensure that we can move the ball forward to support the interests of all of our students. And for us, that is, a record number of students, close to 80,000 students that we just served. And this August, we're looking forward to welcoming 88,000 students, fairly diverse student population. So one of the things, if we were to look at the first Trump administration that they launched, was in the federal work study program, they launched a private sector pilot test to be able not only to provide work study positions on campus or in community-based organizations, but also in the private sector to be able to give those students an opportunity to work. Say they're interested in financial services with a bank. Say they're interested in working in an engineering firm, right? Because they want to study civil or mechanical engineering. And we applied, Alamo Colleges applied during the first Trump administration. The U.S. Department of Education provided that opportunity as a beta test to a certain set of institutions. We were fortunate that we were granted that opportunity, and that's something that's continued along the way. The other part that we saw, there was a big interest in the first Trump administration and has continued through the Biden administration, was in apprenticeships. And we think that's particularly critical for a lot of our students because many of them, their calculus isn't, do I want to go to college? It is, I do want to go to school and get a credential. How can I afford to do that? And not simply looking at the tuition, but actually how many less hours can I afford? I'm working full-time, but I can't be able to do that. Or can I go down to a part-time job? So when we talk with them, it's also about what are opportunities that you can have to pursue or work somewhere that relates to your field. And apprenticeships provide that opportunity to where they can also study, but then apply what they're studying, in particular in that field. So that is something that we've seen, that there's bipartisan interest that may have originated or kind of extended, was enhanced through the Trump administration, continued through the Biden administration. And we're seeing as Congress and as the Trump administration and executive branch and Department of Labor, Department of Education, as they begin to articulate some of their first levels of interest, that apprenticeships are going to be at the forefront of the agenda. The other part that has been particularly interesting, whether that's through HACU and representing the interests of its members or partners, or through other large national associations, is Workforce Pell, right? So Workforce Pell is another area of interest for us. Many students may not have the opportunity in the first iteration to pursue an associate's degree, right? Because they feel that is too long. Well, what are the ways we can stack those opportunities and begin with a short-term credential? And Workforce Pell provides that opportunity. That is a bipartisan issue. And so those are the things I think for us at Alamo that we're interested in. Those are the things definitely as board chair and as a member of the board that we discuss at HACU in our board meetings with Dr. Antonio Flores and with their leadership team at HACU. And also that we are interested in as a partner with HACU at Alamo Colleges, but also as we have conversations with our congressional delegation, whether they're Democrat or Republican, about being able to provide opportunity to our 88,000 students.
Kind of drilling down a bit to the local level. And you mentioned that many states are doing great things here. If you could wave your magic wand, what's one area you feel that HSIs, where they need more support or innovation at the state or local level to help them thrive? What's one thing you think could be added to the equation?
I would say one thing is always resources. I think resources and partnership, right? So let me begin with resources. I would say for us that one of the things that we always look for are ways of how we can partner with others that are mission aligned to be able to procure resources for the institution to serve students and to serve students better. So one thing that I'm particularly thankful and affirmed that our leadership, our governor, our lieutenant governor, and the House and the Senate in Austin, right here in Texas did, is they invested close to $1 billion in the last legislative session in what's called House Bill 8. So they invested close to $1 billion in all 50 community colleges within the state of Texas, focused on ensuring that students come into community colleges, looking at who we serve. It's all performance-based funding, right? They want to ensure that students cross specific milestones and then are resourcing or incentivizing community colleges, in this case, to be able to provide support so students begin to cross all of those successive finish lines. Are they pursuing what's called a credential of value? Is that in a STEM field? Is that in a workforce field? We have talent gaps in the state of Texas, right? We need 50,000 more nurses. So what are you all doing at Alamo or throughout the state to be able to set up more nursing education programs and get students through those areas? They also are paying us to serve high school students, right? Which in the state of Texas are majority minority. So what are you doing to work in tandem with your high school partners to encourage more students, high school students, to take college courses during their school day? That has been beneficial for us. We currently have 16,000 high school students that are pursuing either coursework or moving to certifications, including associate's degrees. That is increased double digits over the last 2 years. Largely, that is because school districts see not only that we provide quality education, but that we have the resources to assist them in doing that, paying for instructional materials, lowering the cost of the students enrolling in the courses. And in fact, for their first 15 hours, if they're taking specific courses, we don't even levy a charge in those courses. So that's really important. I think from what I see at a local level, as you mentioned earlier, in the state of Texas, that's been important for us, providing access to students because cost is a challenge. We've partnered with our mayor and with our city government, which has provided, this year will provide $4 million. Over the last 5 years has provided $16 million for our Alamo Promise, our Promise program that allows all graduating high school seniors within our county, whether they're graduating from a public school, private, parochial, homeschool students, opportunity youth, to be able to come to us at no cost and earn a certificate or degree free for 3 years. So that's also important. And then the other part is in partnership, right? So we're always seeking to work with school districts in the public sector, the city, as noted earlier, or perhaps industry, right, in the private sector. How can we work with healthcare companies to close that talent gap of 50,000 nurses? How can we, if we're looking at a national level with HACU, who are the private sector partners that they bring into the room for us to be able to provide those opportunities, whether they be scholarships that are privately financed or whether they're internships, as I noted earlier, as part of the HACU National Internship Program. So we're always seeking to work with mission-aligned partners, whoever they are, whether it's local, statewide, or national, or whether they're coming from the public or the private sector, and ultimately to benefit our students directly. Indirectly, it could be to provide support for faculty and staff who are directly supporting our students.
You mentioned the shortage in nurses, 50,000, and healthcare, and specifically as an area of concern across the country. My doctoral research examined some of the reasons why some folks are underrepresented in the sciences.
Right.
And I think Hispanic students are in a better position than some other demographics, but certainly there's opportunity for growth. So are there areas you feel that HSIs need to provide better support for Hispanic students in high demand fields like engineering and technology?
Most definitely, because I think as we go back to how can we diversify the talent pipeline, right? What are the things that we can do? And if we look at our student population, it is 78% students of color, right? Primarily Hispanic or Latino and also African American. And so how can we provide students with the opportunity to be able to move into those venues, right? Those professional venues to prepare through rigorous coursework in STEM, right, to prepare for engineering or for healthcare to be able to do that. I think that's particularly critical to take challenging courses that then give them the foundation to do that. So as we look at each step, that's why it's important for us to make sure that we have a robust and academically challenging high school program, either dual credit or early college high schools, or what we call P-Tech programs that are career-focused academies to get those certifications. Of those 16,000 students, it's the same percentage. Actually, it's a little higher, 80+% are students of color. So, and these are predominantly Title I schools, and these students are graduating at about the same rate, at about 75 to 80% are exiting with a credential. That's higher than the national average. And if we were to listen to the media or look at research, you mentioned research, look at research, these are students who are not supposed to succeed. And these are students who are, and they just want the opportunity and the support and partnership to be successful. So that's one. The other is not only providing the opportunity for them to pursue these professional pathways, but it's also alleviating the cost burden. And so that's the other part that we've done is through Promise to be able to do that, right? No cost. We just had a luncheon with students the other day, and they pretty much said, if not for Alamo Promise, I would not be here. And one student is already pursuing, first generation college student pursuing undergraduate research focused on diabetes, which I think is just phenomenal. Another student is a philosophy graduate, is transferring from us to UT San Antonio, and which is also an HSI, right, is our main transfer partner, and is going to pursue coursework in the arts and sciences, right? Another student graduating from us, also going to UT San Antonio, is interested in teacher education. Monolingual Spanish speaker, came to the United States at the age of 16 and is, going to be wants to be a bilingual education teacher, which we have a need for. So all of those things are particularly critical. In Promise, 40% of our students are STEM focused. That's higher than our overall student population, where only 33% are STEM focused. So imagine going from a third to actually close to half that are interested in STEM. And these are largely first generation college students who would not have pursued or may have taken longer to earn the credential if not for Alamo Promise. So, I think that's particularly important. Are there things that we can continue to do? Of course. So I think one of the things is how can we create pre-professional opportunities to diversify the bench and the pipeline for those interested in medicine or interested in law, right? Interested in getting an MBA, kind of in professional schools, because we need to start in particular early, not only in high school, but once they become college freshmen to be able to do that early on. So they are taking the challenging courses that then prepare them for the next level.
I can't end this interview without touching on the topic of diversity and inclusion. And the model for HSIs is robust, culturally relevant programming, this targeted academic support, the partnerships you mentioned. Do you feel that this model could be used to elevate other forms of diversity? And I know that's become a very charged, potentially sensitive topic, but I'm just curious. I'd love your thoughts as chancellor of a district and as a past chair of a large organization like HACU, just what your thoughts are on applying this model to improve other types of diversity in higher education in the United States.
Yeah, I think as noted earlier, I think the most important thing is contextual. It's looking at who we serve and looking at the affirmation of those individuals that we serve. So that's particularly important for us. If close to 80% of our students are students of color, then ensuring that they feel they can bring their whole selves onto our college campuses, onto our centers, and that we are going to support them in achieving their dreams. I think that's particularly important for us. One of the affirming things is House Bill 8, which I mentioned earlier, actually provides us additional support for students who need more college preparation work. They may not have tested into freshman composition, and so they need more support services. So those are things that we need to provide to them. They may be under-resourced, so we get additional support. The proxy for that is Pell. So if they qualify and they qualify for Pell, the state gives us additional resources for them. And also for adults that are 25 years of age plus. Those are additional resources that the state is giving us. So if we look at our population, 80% students of color, and then we look at those three kind of groups of students, subgroups of students who need more college work, are under-resourced socioeconomically, or adults 25 years plus, that's even more than 78 to 80%. And Austin's giving us more resources to support those students. It may be viewed as somewhat agnostic with regard to political philosophy or race or ethnicity or gender, but I think those are particularly critical resources that we are supporting and providing for our students. And then the other part is also, how can we be innovative in looking at things to be able to do that? So one partnership that we have, which is a binational talent pipeline in partnership with Methodist Hospital System here in San Antonio, and we presented at the HACU conference on this, is working with, and it's a case study, is that they need more nurses. I mentioned that earlier. And Mexico actually has nurses, and so that they've trained, and they can't employ them all in hospitals in Mexico. And so we have established a connection with a college in Mexico, a university, national university system, Tec Milenio, in which we will prepare individuals culturally to be able to transition to the United States and also to pass the NCLEX or the nursing boards. And Methodist Healthcare System has said, wonderful, and we'll sponsor them when they come here, so that we can hire them, because we would like to have that talent pipeline to do that. And they'll stay with us because we've sponsored them along the way. What's interesting as part of that, we had 1,100 applicants for the first cohort of about 25 students. And 30% of those individuals actually currently live in the US and are not employed in healthcare. In fact, they're underemployed. But they're looking for an opportunity to apply their credential to serve individuals in the United States. So imagine us closing that gap. These individuals are going to make more money. It addresses the need and closes the gap. So that's something innovative that I don't think that we would have landed on if not for conversations with the private sector to be able to close that. So
incredible and exciting to see, and hopefully more schools even move in this direction and find opportunities to do that kind of collaborative work. Dr. Mike Flores, Chancellor of the Alamo Colleges District, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Here's my take. What stands out from my conversation with Dr. Flores is how Hispanic Serving Institutions are really leading the way and showing how higher education can evolve to meet the needs of all students. The work being done at HSIs goes far beyond demographic representation. It's about partnerships, it's about industry, it's about creating institutional cultures and support systems that are helping these students thrive and achieve. I was particularly struck by the dual focus on both immediate student success and that long-term systemic change, particularly around the idea of shaping the healthcare system in the greater San Antonio area. HSIs aren't just working to support today's students, they're actively reshaping higher education through their advocacy, through those partnerships, and innovative approaches to student support that permeate into other populations. As Dr. Flores made clear, their experiences and best practices offer valuable lessons for any institution committed to serving an increasingly diverse student population. Thoughts? The Mastering the Next podcast is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Cadieux, J.C. Bonilla, Mallory Wilsey, Brendan Henkel, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.